If you decide to own a firearm, it's important to know how to maintain it. Hi, I'm Ray. I'm a firearms instructor from Chicago, and my pronouns are they, them. I'm going to walk you through the steps to clean a typical semi-automatic pistol. Here we have a Ruger Security 9 9mm. The first thing we're going to do, as always, is make sure that the gun isn't loaded before we disassemble and clean it. To begin, we'll remove the magazine by pushing the magazine release button on the left side of the receiver. We can see that the magazine was empty. Now we're going to need to pull the slide back so we can look in the chamber. On this gun, you have to disengage the safety before pulling the slide back. Use the slide lock lever to lock the slide back by pushing upwards as the slide is pulled back. This will lock the slide in place so that you can look inside the chamber and verify that there's no round in the gun. Once we're done to disassemble it, we'll have to move the slide back into position by pushing down on the slide lock lever and pulling the slide back slightly. It'll return to its position automatically. On this gun, the takedown pin is here. What we need to do is pull the slide back ever so slightly and then pull on this pin. One neat trick that I learned about this gun is you can actually use the magazine to pull the pin out. We're gonna try to do that here. All right, that worked. So now the takedown pin is removed, the slide is clear to flow all the way forward off of the gun, and we can remove it for cleaning. With the slide disassembled, we can access the barrel and the recoil spring. To get the recoil spring out, we just pull forward on it slightly, and then release it. For the barrel, push forward a little bit, pull it up, and it should come right out. So now the gun is disassembled enough to clean it. The first thing we're going to do is use some solvent to remove any debris that's been inside the gun. With any sort of gun cleaning, you're going to use solvent first, then you're going to use oil, and then the gun will be clean. This solvent is in a convenient spray bottle, so we can actually just start spraying all the parts that we're going to clean. Now that we've got a good amount of solvent on, we're going to use a wire brush to just clean out each of the individual parts of the gun. You'll want to make sure that you're getting in all the little nooks and crannies to make sure we get all that debris out of the gun so that it's not affecting the operation. Pay special attention to the slide rails because the operation of your slide is going to be really important to make sure that your gun doesn't malfunction. The goal of the solvent is to help release the debris that is built up in the gun. You'll get this debris because some of the spent propellant winds up inside of the gun after firing each time. When we get to the barrel, we can use this brush on the outside and on the feed ramp, but for the inside, we're actually going to need a rod with a brass brush on the end of it. You can push this through the barrel to make sure that all the gunk inside is removed. Some people say you can't go forward and backwards. It really depends on your personal preference. I don't find any issue with it, but some people are a little more particular about things like that. Now that we've used the brush to get the majority of the debris off, we can use one of these little cloth pads to clean some of the solvent off. You can see how much debris is actually pulled off just from that one little cloth pad. Just make sure you're getting in every single little nook and cranny in here. For the barrel, we're going to use this little push rod here and actually take one of these cloths and feed it through the tiny eyelet on the end of it. This will allow us to push the cloth through the barrel and get any residue that's in there outside of it. With the barrel, you'll basically want to repeat this process until the cloth comes back out clean. Okay, now that we've used our solvent to remove most of the debris, we're going to take one of these cloth pads again and use some lubricant. You don't need a ton of lubricant, but you want to make sure that there's a nice coating on all of the surfaces of the gun. Again, we want to pay special attention to the slide rails and make sure that those are nice and lubricated to give us good action on the slide. What we're really going for is just a thin coating of lubricant on all the surfaces that are going to move. Definitely recommend using gloves for this, otherwise you're going to smell like oil forever afterwards. For the barrel, again, we're going to use our little push rod here to get this oiled up cloth through the barrel. You really don't need a ton of oil inside of the barrel. You just want a very thin coat. We'll also make sure the feed ramp is nice and lubricated. All right, now that the gun is good and lubed up, we're going to reassemble it. The first thing that goes back in is the barrel. You'll want to make sure that these notches are pointed upward with the slide facing down. Push the barrel through forward, drop it in place, and it should land right in there. Take your recoil spring with the small part facing forward, push it in place, and the back part should nest in the barrel nice and easy there. Then we just take the slide and push it back onto the gun. Once it's in place, we'll take the takedown pin, again, putting a little bit of pressure on the front of the barrel to get it lined up, and drop it into place. Make sure that the notch is facing upward. And now the gun is reassembled. We can use a rag to wipe off any excess lubrication on the outside of the gun. And there we go. Now our gun is all clean and ready to go. We'll want to verify the slide operation by pulling it back, letting it slide forward, and then dry firing it once to make sure that the trigger is still operating successfully. Of course, different people are going to have different techniques, and every gun operates a little bit differently, but this should be enough to get you started.